Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter call today, and I'm going to speak quickly. Last week, I was able to have a contact with some people in Iraq to see what was going on, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit here today. Now I'm waiting for another call, and they, for some reason, like to call around noon, and I'm kind of beholden to when they're able to contact me to find out a little bit more about what's transpired in Iraq today. With regard to last week, the situation was rather chaotic, described kind of as a battle royale between the Framework Coalition and the Tripartite. The Framework Coalition was a coalition primarily of Shia political officials, ranging from some of the more moderate Shia to some of the more radical pro-Iranian 12th Imamers. So it's kind of difficult for them to kind of hold it all together. But the Sadrists, understanding that, sort of stepped back and gave the framework 40 days to try to resolve whatever issues they could to form a new government. They were unable to do so. In the meantime, the Sadrists formed a loose coalition with the Kurds. So now which created the Tripartite coalition. And that coalition is gaining strength. The Framework Coalition is mercifully losing strength. One thing I want to mention quickly before I proceed is for those of you calling in for the first time, after this call, I suggest you go to our call of May 25th, because that call is going to have the complete turnkey program we put in place to assist you both pre- and post-RV. But let's talk a little bit about the situation in Iraq. Scheduled for today was a vote, hopefully, on the passage of the food security law. Now, this is a rather complicated situation. Debate may continue before there's a vote. We don't know. It always seems to be rather fluid. They do have rules and guidelines, and they always seem to be on the fringe of all of those things and quite often cross the line. It's just the way they seem to function. I've said this before. They not only have a parliamentary system, which is a little bit more complicated than our system, but they've constructed a rather complicated system. And then when you lay on top of that the sectarian and tribal differences, it's difficult to get just about anything done. However, it looks as though the food security law is on a good glide path. Now, the food security law, I was thinking about this today, is sort of like a Trojan horse. Those of you that know your history know that the Trojan horse was constructed in order to sneak the Greek army within the walls of Troy. Well, the food security law is a Trojan horse of sorts, because while the issue presented is to ensure food security for the citizens of Iraq, what it really is, it's full of all of the reforms necessary to end the corruption in Iraq. Embedded in the food security law are the oil and gas law, taxes and tariff reforms, incorporates the white paper reforms, an end to all corrupt practices, funding for the building of their infrastructure, electric grid, water and roads, transition to a private economy, and included is also the citizens entitlement programs. So there's a lot incorporated in the food security law. We also have internationally the IMF, the UN, the World Bank, and the U.S. Treasury all pushing publicly for the passage of the food security law. They're all well aware of the fact that the food security law is inevitably or will inevitably force the currency reforms. In fact, the food security law is the prerequisite for currency reforms. So when I say currency reforms, what I'm talking about is a change in the exchange rate between the U.S. dollar and the Iraqi dinar. The problem or the question is about the constitutionality of a change in the exchange rate under a caretaker government. And the only way I can address that is with a series of questions. It's kind of a Socratic approach, but it's the only way I can look at it. Question number one, isn't the caretaker government operating unconstitutionally at the present time? Yes. Question number two, if the caretaker government can sign off on an oil, gas, and a food security law, why can't they sign off on the 2022 budget and the change in the exchange rate? Question number three, if the CBI has the unilateral authority to change the exchange rate, why would operating under a caretaker government make any difference with regard to their authority? Question four, if the food security law passes, the CBI completes the project to delete the zeros and changes the exchange rate, why would the federal court nullify such progress? Now, the courts are independent precisely so they can operate apolitically. We see it in our own country. For example, when cases were brought about concerns about the election of 2020, the courts decided not to hear the cases. Now, the individuals that thought, well, we don't want to go there, said, see, you lost in the courts. No, they didn't lose in the courts. The courts refused to hear the case. The reason I bring that up is because that's very well what could happen in Iraq. The federal Supreme Court could just say, it is what it is, and we're not going to reverse all of this because we can see that despite the fact that an argument for the extra constitutional activities does exist, we have to weigh that against the damage done by nullifying the progress that's been made. So that's where I think we are. So my call could come in at any time. I hope it's going to be good news. But again, in my opinion, passage of the food security law will result inevitably in completion of the currency reforms, which involve the change in the exchange rate, which, of course, is what we're all interested in. So, again, I strongly suggest that your newer callers go to our call of 525 May 25th. You can learn about our program to assist Dinarians both pre- and post-RV. Now, over the last couple of months, and I've been making these calls now for over a decade, but over the last couple of months, given the high tax surveillance state that the federal government seems to be trying to create, I think every American needs to take advantage of their ability to establish a family asset protection trust package, because it may be the single greatest thing you can do to stop the intrusion of the federal government into our private and personal lives. These trusts will protect your privacy. They will certainly protect you from civil suits and make it virtually impossible for anyone to sue you because they have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. And, of course, we all know civil suits are about monetary awards. These trusts can help you to lower taxes. They're also going to be superb for asset management. We've talked about the fact that a change in the exchange rate of the dinar and these other currencies is going to create a hyperinflationary environment, and that's even before the Biden administration triggered inflation in this country. So we're going to need to transition from currencies and financial assets to tangible assets anyway, and it's much easier and much more tax efficient to manage such assets within this trust package. My other concern, of course, is the digital currency. I think they were hoping to institute a digital currency before the exchange rate change, but I don't think they're going to be able to accomplish that. The digital currency, in my opinion, takes possession away from you, because once the federal government goes to a digital currency, it disempowers the banks, rests all power with the Treasury and the federal government. The only thing you're going to be able to do with the digital currency is purchase an item digitally or leave the money in your digital wallet with the Treasury Department. They're taking away the hard currency. They're taking away your ability to put that money in your pocket, do transactions off the grid, put the money under your mattress, do whatever you want. Of course, there's always the possibility of your account being hacked, and we see that the number 2 loss of wealth these days comes from identity theft, so that's going to be a problem there. And, of course, the release of an EMT, an electromagnetic pulse weapon, and that's a distinct possibility, not only from an enemy but from our own government for their own reasons, would wipe out your account. So digital currency, from the perspective of the individual citizen, in my opinion, is a really bad idea. So if it's going to happen, let's just hope that we can get this exchange done, go to the bank, transition assets to tangible assets before we lose possession and ultimate control through a digital currency. And, of course, these trusts will allow you to avoid the federal estate tax, which can be as much as 65% of your entire estate above $10 million. And for those of us that have currencies, and with inflation being what it is, we can get to 10 million USD very, very quickly. Now, in order to get our initial package, and those of you listening for the first time, not only do I strongly suggest you go to our call of May 25th, but I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. You can go to our website to learn more about us. You go to trusts with an S, Unlimited, LLC.com. If you wish to purchase or, to get one of our initial no-obligation packages, you can either email us at trusts with an S, Unlimited, LLC, at gmail.com, or you can call our phone service, which is 307-274-4122. We will get our no-obligation package out to you as quickly as possible. It's got a lot of information about us, about the trusts, about the currencies and their evaluation. There's also a lot of assistance we can provide on a post-RV basis. You can review the package, contact us by phone or email if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. There will be no consultation fee. I'm glad I've been able to get this information out before my phone rings, because I was really concerned that the phone call would come in from Iraq, while I was doing this call. That did not happen. I'm really hopeful for some good information. The last couple of weeks, I said I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a reinstitution of the dinar in country within 30 days. That's still my position right now, because passage of the food security law, in my opinion, is the prerequisite for the currency reforms, which involve the deletion of the zeros and change in the exchange rate. The reinstituted rate could come out at a global rate of north of $3 or $4. Most likely it'll be at a premium above the dollar in order to transition the Iraqi citizen to the use of their own dinar, but quickly thereafter to go to north of $3. Some people are talking about $5 to $6. I'll take $3 in a New York second, and I'm sure most individuals, particularly those of you that have been involved in this as long as I have as well, at this point, we want to go to the bank. We want to do our exchange. We want to make sure that we've preserved our privacy, that we've preserved our assets from litigation, that we've reduced the taxes to the extent that we can, and we can transition to tangible assets and management of those assets outside of the purview of the state, federal, or local governments. So again, thanks for listening to the call. And lastly, those of you that listen to this call and the call of May 25th, I hope you will contact us to get our no-obligation package. We've been very busy of late, not only from individuals that are dinarians, but now we're seeing an influx of individuals that have little or no dinar, but are beginning to understand how these trusts work and why this protection was afforded us under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. So again, thanks for listening to the call. We will be back next week. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency conference call and schedule, or get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye.